Okay, about got it back together. Got the engine back together anyway, and got it timed up. Got the magneto firing, all that. Got the valve cover on it. Swinging around here. I like this little pulley. This little pulley came on the donor engine. So, time to start working on the fuel tank and the cooling tank. So along with the donor engine, I got the cooling tank here, and the fuel tank, original fuel tank. And inside the cooling tank, I forgot there was some parts. Had a piston, another crankshaft, this old pulley. I'd like to restore this pulley. It's a paper pulley, and I would like to restore that. Let's see what we can do with that. Here's the exhaust manifold, pretty rough. Looks like it's been brazed up, but I think I can fix that. I'm going to blast that and see what that looks like when I get the crud off of it. Inside the fuel tank here, this is a pretty cool little, just a push-on cap, so you don't lose it. Got a little chain on it there. There's a cross section of it. And this is pretty cool here. This is the check ball here, that assembly. I'll get that all cleaned up. It's rusty in the tank, so I'm going to clean that up. Probably blast it. This is the tank mount. And this is a cooling tank. It's pretty cool inside. And here's where it mounts on the engine. Over here and down there. That fitting down there is loose, so it's going to have to be resoldered. I'll show you it. It's a little loose on there, so I'm going to blast around there and clean that up and either bolt that back on with some sealer, modern sealer, or maybe try to resolder it. Don't know yet. This one here, this is the drain. Now this is interesting. It's a cast plug here, but it's got a faucet washer or a place for it there. Goes in there and seats against that. Shuts that off so you can drain it. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up, see what's going on inside. It's pretty clean. Let me show you this though. I pulled this out of there. This is some deposits that were inside the wall, stuck to the wall in there. And I took a hammer and kind of pecked on it a little bit and knocked that crap loose. I'm going to have to get that stuff cleaned out of there. But that's, look at that, that's nothing but lime and scale and mineral deposits. Don't know how many years it took to accumulate that, but this engine had worked for a while. No doubt about that. So anyway, get these parts cleaned up and get them put on there. I just set the tank on there just to show you what it looks like. It looks pretty cool. Pretty cool on there. Also inside the tank, excuse me, inside the tank, I found the coolest piece of all. The original tag. So I'm going to clean it up, put it on there. I didn't have a tag, and I didn't know it was in that tank till I dumped out this bunch of stuff here, and that tag come rolling out with it, and I was delighted. Okay, back over on the bench here. This is the check ball assembly that goes into the tank. It was broke off here, off camera. I decided to go ahead and drill that, tap that for 1/8 pipe, and screwed that nipple in, and then put this fitting on there. So that'll go to my my copper line going up to the carburetor. Now let me show you how this thing is made here. So this is a very robust ball system in this. I mean, this thing is huge. probably 3/8 of an inch maybe. And I've tried to change it. It was rusty, so I cleaned it. It's got some pits on it, but I think it's okay. Little tiny microscopic pits there. But it seems to hold okay. I've got a brass one, a new brass one here, but I don't think I'm going to use it. I pick up these check balls at the flea market occasionally, and I don't believe I'm going to use that brass one. The steel one seems to be fine. I'm going to try it. But anyway, it sits on this seat in there. So you put the ball in first, then you put the seat in, and it goes in that way. It has a tapered seat where the ball seats and sets on, and that sticks in there. And then this nut goes on, and that's it. A couple wrenches here, tighten that up. There we go. And that's all there is to it. Already made a gasket for it. I'll stick it on the tank. And I've gone ahead and mounted the tank on there. It mounts down on the side there of the block. There's the pickup unit on there. I've cleaned this tank out, sandblasted it inside. It's nice and clean inside, so we'll get on with the rest of it here. Okay, back over to the cooling tank here. Here's that loose fitting I had on here. And I just took a grinder, grinded off the head of the rivets, and popped it off of there. It's pretty rough. I'm going to put it in the blaster, knock that stuff off of there, and see how much solder is left on there. I may try to resolder it. I may just bolt it back on and use some sealer, don't know yet. And after I got this cleaned up, a little brass screw in there that holds the washer that seals against that surface broke off. It's a through hole, so I'm going to get that screw out, get ready to get another washer screwed on there, and that will let the valve seal. So we're making progress. Don't know what else to show you here in the tank. So I'll work on the cooling tank a little bit, find out what we've got there. Okay, I need to get on this job here, get this thing cleaned up, and it's clean. Get this located and drilled out and retapped here for that screw. So let's get on to it. You know, I was trying to figure out how I was going to get this thing held without hurting those threads, and sometimes you just get lucky. I was going through my excess tooling and found this block here. So what I'm going to do, I found out that got the clamp for it. So I found out if I set that on a flat surface, not just using the milling vise, set that up there, put this clamp on it, that I can set it up like that. It's flat. I'll set it in a chuck, locate over the top of the screw, and we'll drill that turkey out. I'll show you where a set of gauge pins comes in handy for work like this. I've got to locate this part right underneath the drill. So let me get it clamped up in here. I've got my fixture clamped up in the in the vise. Now I'm going to put the part in the fixture, tighten it up. Got a 152 thousandths gauge pin here. I'm going to put it in the chuck just lightly. Bring that down. Bring the table over. I'm going to locate the drill, that pin, right over that hole. Get close here. Find the cranks a little closer. Bringing the knee up here where I can get to it. There we go. Now I can get that gauge pin right down against there. Get that lined up. Just going to eyeball it. It doesn't have to be rocket science. This is how you can get close enough for what they call close enough for government work here. That looks pretty good right there. I'll bring it in tight here. You can see that I've visually just lined up that gauge pin with the screw that I want to drill out. That gets me close enough to the center. So let's drill it. Okay, I got my center drill in there, ready to go. Let me go turn the rotophase on. Okay, what I'm going to do now is find a drill bit, find out the size screw I need, and find a drill bit to drill for that tap. Okay, a 1032 is the size of the screw. It calls for a number 21 drill bit. I've got in there. Carefully drill that out. Set up the tap. Alright, to keep the tap straight, I'm going to use a tap guide, tap wrench, put the tap guide in, clean the crap off out there, and set the tap wrench up. Bring the coil down, preload it, a little lube, doesn't take much on this, just a little WD is all I use. Probably what I'm going to be doing is just cleaning out the threads that are already there, since I centered up on them pretty easy. And it's running right through, so pretty easy. Feels good. This setup gets you a nice straight set of threads in there. There we go. Get this thing to focus. There we go. I'm working right over the trash can here. Watch me drop the screw. There we go. Now I've got to find a washer, faucet washer, to fit that. We're back in business on that part. Well, I went ahead off camera and assembled the engine, got the tank on it, and here's the valve that I repaired. Went ahead and just went to the hardware store and got a faucet washer and put on there. And that seat in there was pretty rough. So I ended up taking a ball stone like so, and I put on a drill, went in there and dressed down that seat, and then took some emery cloth to it and polished it so that it doesn't hurt that rubber. So that works pretty well now. And the engine's all back together except for the exhaust. I've got to get the exhaust. There's an elbow that goes on here that was real rough, and I'm going to make an extension for it, and it was so rusty I'm having to bore it out, and so I can fit a piece of pipe in there. And these fittings were loose. The tank had been handled rough and it knocked loose the solder joints. So I just took these off, as you saw in the other video. Took both of them off and cleaned everything up and put JB Weld underneath there instead of solder. And that works a lot better. And use some sealer, you know, in between the tank, since it's just tin and the cast iron head, so you know, it doesn't look real pretty, but it should seal it up just fine. And here's a look underneath. I just bolted what was riveted. I used bolts. So show you this manifold here. Got it set up over here in the bridge port. That's the threads, what's left of the threads inside there. This thing, I just got it clamped to an angle plate here so I can run the boring tool down in it, and I'm going to clean that up where it'll accept another piece of pipe, and probably just braze that piece of pipe into place on it and rebuild it. So, you know, wouldn't normally have to do this, but you know, I've got the tools to do it with, so I'm going to do it. It's kind of fun. I'll just let that bore out until it cleans up. Well, this originally had 1-inch threads in it. Here's a 3/4 cap. I think I'm just going to turn that down until that'll fit in there and braze it in. Okay, here was the setup. I just went on there and turned that down, and now this piece will go fit over it. And I'll take it over there and braze that, and that'll be a great new thread insert for this. So that should work. This has been all broken, and I kind of ground it down a little bit, made it look a little better, but Just need some new threads in there is all, so I'll go get those brazed in.